Welcome back, guys, and today we're going to break down my support and resistance strategy. Some people on the internet say that support and resistance is too basic and doesn't work, but in my opinion and based off my results, they're completely wrong. I personally have been trading support and resistance for 4 years. I trade it live on YouTube. You can see the track record we have on YouTube. Now, it is important you get your support and resistance right. A lot of people draw it wrong, which is why they end up failing. So I want to explain to you how to do it, in my opinion, the best way to yield results that are going to be successful when trading support and resistance. So big video, sit down, enjoy, and let's get it. Let's run the intro and get straight into the video here. All right, so the first thing I want to discuss here, right, or one of the things I want to discuss is how do you define a support and resistance. Really important to understand this, all right? So a support and resistance is defined by as little as one candle closing in the opposite direction. So let's say we have one bullish candle, we have another bullish candle, and now we get a bearish candle. That one bearish candle has created your resistance, just that one bearish. Now, to create a stronger resistance, you want two candles closing to actually create a proper resistance. But the one candle closing in the opposite direction creates a resistance. That can be considered a resistance. Now, to be considered a strong resistance, you want two or more candles, which is what an actual resistance is. Same for upside. So if we go ahead and look at that as an example on the charts, we can see here, right? Go ahead and scroll back. That's a resistance, one candle close. So we had no resistance, boom, one candle close, opposite direction, created a resistance. This even counts as a resistance, this one candle closing, that one candle. But now when we have two candles close, 1, 2, it creates a stronger resistance, and now that becomes your resistance, right? At the time, this was a resistance here. If another candle closed bearish, it would be considered a strong resistance, right? And that's how that works. Right, that's how you define. Same thing as a support here, right? Support, we're closing bearish candles. The minute one bullish candle is formed, that's your support being formed, right? That bullish candle forms a support on all time frames, right? 15, 30 minute, it's how it works. So that's a simple concept, but I want to make sure you have that fundamental understanding before we continue with the video. So I see a lot of you guys trading support and resistance like this. You're going to say here that, boom, I'm going to buy at support here. You take a buy here, you think you profit. Or you do the same thing here and you say, I'm going to buy at support, and boom, you end up losing, right? Or you say the same thing, I'm going to sell at this strong resistance here. Boom, you take a sell when you see rejection at that resistance, you end up losing. And then you say support and resistance does not work. So let me show you exactly how to use support and resistance to make it work. And the first thing we're going to start off with is actually not using boxes here. I see so many people use boxes for support and resistance. They put a resistance zone like this, and then they put a support zone like this, and then they say, let me have a buy position from the support zone, look for buys towards the upside. This is completely wrong because this is not accurate at all. Supply and demand is slightly different where you use boxes as zones, but support and resistance is accurate to the T. Now, you don't want to be marking support and resistance on candle wicks. You want to be marking support and resistance on candle bodies. Many people mark support and resistance like this on the candle wicks here, saying that that's a resistance and that's a support. This is wrong. We want to be bodies. Why do we use bodies? Because this is where price actually close. Wicks, they are actually resistances on lower time frames, but it's not where the candle closed, because when we're trading support and resistance, we're looking for price to go above or below the support or respect that zone. Wicks can do whatever it wants like this. Price can keep wicking past this zone. That doesn't mean that the zone is broken. As soon as a candle body closes above the zone like this, that is when the zone gets broken now, right? That is when the zone gets broken. Same thing here. As you can see, this support was respected. Nothing broke below. These wicks can come below. Multiple wicks can come below. Until we have something closing below, that's when the support is disrespected there. So that's very important to understand. Always mark using candle bodies here. So how are we going to use my support and resistance strategy, and how are we going to trade? So I know a lot of you guys, of course, it's not as simple as one step here, but a lot of you guys look at this market. Let's go on the 4 hour and you look at this as a trend here, right? Obviously, this is a bullish trend. We're going up, right? Let's actually go on the 1 hour. Right, I'm using this, can work on anything. I'm just using GJ for an example here, as I always use this chart, but you can do it on any other pair. You guys will look at this as a 4-hour uptrend, higher highs, higher lows, and you'll be looking at this to be trading higher and higher and higher, because you'd say, okay, if price can come and make a support, I can buy at support. If price reaches resistance, I can sell at resistance. So when you're trading, you guys would see this as an uptrend. I don't want you to see this as an uptrend. Trend does matter, but what I want you to see the market is in ranges. So what do I mean like that? A range is when a price makes a resistance and a support. That creates a range. So here we have the resistance, and here we have the support, right? And we can draw this without this little drama. We'll make it nice and simple. Here's a resistance and here's a support. That's a range. A ranging market is when it keeps bouncing between that support and resistance. So markets will always create range. In order for price to create the new zone, it will create a new range. New zone, new range, and that obviously creates an uptrend. But when we're trading support and resistance, we're marking those ranges, and in between those ranges there'll be minor support and resistance. So the top of the range is your resistance, the bottom of the range is your support, and inside of those ranges we could trade inside the range if there's enough space, and we can trade outside of the range, right? And that's the beauty of support and resistance, is it allows us to determine where is our trading zones, because our trading zones are not going to be at support and are not going to be at resistance. You never want to buy into a resistance right at a resistance. You don't want to buy here, you don't want to buy here, and believe it or not, when it taps this support, you don't also want to buy there. You want to buy the rejection from that zone, right, following the higher time frame trend. So you will buy at the support once we see rejection, but not you're buying at the resistance. Now, if the market's here, when you come that day at the market, you're not buying here. You're waiting for price to get above the resistance and buying above the resistance to what? To create the new range, right? We're always trying to buy above the next resistance to create the new range and continue what? Higher and higher and higher. And that's how price works, right? Price will range, break out range, or reverse. When it reverses, guess what happens here? We create a resistance and now a support, and now boom, we're creating a new range. Now let me teach you something cool. I know this might be a bit confusing, but listen with me. The previous ranges that were made in the past now act as your extra support. The previous ranges that were made in the past now act as your support, right? So that's how we can use previous levels to help us when we're looking in the future to sell or buy. So this is, now you're starting to understand how support and resistance, how powerful it is. It's basically like our map through the markets here. So think of the market through ranges. So how are we going to use support and resistance here? So support and resistance actually starts from your weekly time frame, believe it or not. So let's go ahead and mark something else here. Let's mark something like gold here, right? Let's go and mark something like gold. And let's start off here fresh, remove drawings, and let's see how this would look here. So our support would be here. We start off on the weekly. That's our support, and that's our resistance. So now we have our range for the week. This is our range for the week. Where are we right now? We're at the bottom of the range. So in between this range, we can be trading. Now, if a candle closes below this range, not wicks, you can see how many times we've left wicks. This is why wicks are not important. If a candle leaves this range, we can go to the next zone. Now, the next thing we do is daily. Daily will have different zones here, but ultimately the daily is the same as the weekly, and this is becoming our range. So what does this become? This becomes your trading range here, right? This becomes your trading range. Now, you do the same for the 4-hour. Find your 4-hour support and resistance. Well, our 4-hour support is also the same as the daily. Now, we had one here before. We close below, so guess what happens? We have a small little range right here. This is our small little range. So this is our previous one, right? Because we take always most recent, okay? We can actually should be technically taking this one. But since this is the low of the range, I'm taking this one. But you should always be taking the previous support and the most recent resistance, okay? So since we're going down here, I don't need to mark anything up for the moment because we're going down. Now this becomes our range here. So we know we don't want to buy at this because that's a resistance. If we buy at that, we're most likely to lose. Now if price creates support on a 4-hour and respects this zone, guess where buys are going to come? They're going to come above here. Why? Because this is now getting outside of the range. Is it possible to trade inside of this range? Yes, but guess what? When you're trading, you're going to be trading 1 hour, 30-minute, and 15-minute time frames. So you need to go and see where's your support and resistance on 15-minute, 1-hour time frames, right? So if we scroll back and find where our last support is, it's the same. It's that weekly, daily support. It's the same support. Now, if we scroll to most recent price action, we've created a range here. If we leave that range, it will take us to the next. So where's the next target in terms of support and resistance? This one. Why is this the next one? Because this was previously support. We broke through. It can do a break and retest, which will make it become resistance. So this would be the next zone. So now I'm thinking of market in ranges. If we get back above here, I can look for price to continue here if we have a bullish bias, right? So that's another step you need to continue. Understanding how to identify bias. I have plenty of videos explaining that. I also have videos explaining how to use the entries, right? How to use the entry models. But I want you guys to start marking support and resistance properly and understanding the story behind support and resistance. So we started daily, we started weekly, we started daily. Now we start to have grid lines, right? We start to have, so this we can start to mark as weekly support, WS/DS/4S. This is everything. This is our weekly support, daily support, and 4-hour support. This one right here, right? This week, this was, remember, our 4-hour support here, 4S. All right. This one here is a 15, right? So this is a 15. Now look, we have beautiful zones forming on our chart here. So our range, if we expect price to go up today by identifying bias, is going to be from this resistance to this next support. So there's no buys till we get above this resistance because we're in resistance. And look how price is struggling. If you remove this line, you will ask yourself, why is price struggling there? I don't see anything. 15-minute is clean. There's no resistance there. I don't understand, Harry, why price is rejecting this zone. The reason why is because we did the higher time frame markup. Boom, 4-hour resistance right there, or support. We are reacting off the 4-hour. And that's why you lose, because you take a buy and you're like, it failed. Why did it fail? You probably missed that it was a zone. So if we can get above here, we can entertain to the next zone. Now I'm going to ask you a question, give you 5 seconds to answer. Once we reach here, what does this become? This becomes a range. Where's our next range? Our next range is above here. Right? Now we're thinking of market in ranges because our next resistance is not till up here. So that's the next range we can look to trade. And now we start to view the market in ranges. Add bias, what direction you're looking for today in the market. Add the entry models, how to enter on setups, right? And if you don't think support and resistance is important, let me show you something special, right? In the exclusives here, look how many I cover. Chart markup part 1, part 2, part 3. 3 parts in the exclusive content of just chart markup to make sure these guys get it right. Okay, so that's how important marking your support and resistance. Also, in the exclusive, when they send plans, they are sending their support and resistance for me to look over and make sure that it is correct here. Very important. Very important for them to be sending me, and that is exactly why, is because when they send a plan, they're sending me what zones they're looking for buys, what zones they're looking for sells, because of how important support and resistance is. Marking the correct support and resistance will determine your day profitable or not when trading support and resistance. Funny how that works, right? So this is why it's extremely important, guys. And I hope this video has given you a good overview of support and resistance. I encourage you to check out my channel where I talk about how I actually enter on these. So you can see gold breakout, 5-minute breakout. These are all entry models here, right? You can watch my course as well to see more information about that, of how actually to enter above, below, between the support and resistance. So I hope that this video helped. With that being said, guys, leave a subscribe to the channel for more content. Take care, trade sharp, and hopefully catch you guys very, very soon. Peace.